We're 2 seconds in and I already clicked the wrong thing. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Disc Week News. This is, I guess, the pilot episode. The entire point of this is that I have a lot to say, I guess, and it's just fun for me to talk my opinions on most things, especially when it comes to disc golf. For those of you who don't know me, I am a board member of a local county club, working on installing my own course. Been in the game since like 2007, followed the game pretty closely for about a decade through the 2010s. I wasn't playing through the 2010s, but then I started it back up pretty seriously in like 2019. For those of you that care, I guess I'm a 960-ish rated golfer, which means absolutely nothing depending on the course, right? So the entire, again, this is a live stream podcast. This is purely me, just me. I'm the one producing it. I'll be the one clicking through things. This is the pilot episode. So we're kind of working through the kinks, right? And I can figure out what I can and can't automate, what will and won't go wrong. Like I'm already starting a half hour late because my software decided to goof. So I think we are good to go now, finally. And apparently my microphone's too heavy. But this Disc Week News, it will be uploaded to its own YouTube channel after this. But I'm starting streaming on my personals first. That way, people who follow me can see it there. And eventually we will get it its own TikTok page, its own YouTube page, which is live on both. Feel free to live chat. I will be interacting with the live chat throughout the podcast. Like I said, we'll get switched to all those. Purely self-produced, just going through my checklist here to make sure I start the podcast out right. There's a... Yeah, actually, I think that's about it. I think I hit all my keynotes. So Waco. Waco was something, right? So with Waco, it's kind of the same thing every year, sort of. They change a little bit about each one. Like I think it was hole 16 they changed up, and hole 17 I feel like is the best hole in the course. But hole 16 they change pretty much every year. It feels like hole 14 or 15, they change both of those depending, like, oh, they added Amanda, oh, they added that new OB line. Like, the course changes quite a bit. The problem with Waco is that since it has like the river and the road on each side, it suffers from that. It's hard to expand out. It's hard to expand forward, backwards, left, right. So in my opinion, Waco might be getting a little bit dated, but it's still fun to watch because it's one of probably the easier trek on the course, especially for MPO. Now, just hitting my notes real quick. Obviously, Hamas won. Congrats to Hamas. That was such a cool way to win there at the end. And well done by DGBT on recording that, especially having like Simon there. Simon's vlog, if you're not following it, is so great. So like the insight into his play was a lot of fun. I'm just checking to make sure nobody's telling me that my podcast sounds terrible or that my app is messing up. Nope, we're good to go. Cool. I don't know how long of a delay YouTube has. We'll see. Hopefully it's not too gnarly. Whatever. We'll see and make sure that doesn't look terrible later. Anywho, obviously I'm not going to know some stuff until it's done and I get to look at it later, right? So, that's the whole point of this being a bit of a pilot. I guess I'm also live on Twitch, which I will be changing that. I don't see this doing very big on Twitch. Anywho, thanks for hanging out. I will be doing maybe a little giveaway in a little bit. And back to my notes. So, Lot won as well. Kristin Latt won. But I want to keep talking about the MPO stuff real quick. So let's talk about stats a little bit. One of the things that very few people actually care about, but I do. So this is the kind of dorky side of disc golf that I enjoy a lot. Let me get over here and change to the screen with, I should probably full screen that. Perfect. Oh, that actually solves multiple issues. So, this is Waco, right? I have to give a huge shout out to Nathan Queen because he eagled, where's he at? He eagled 2 holes back to back, I think. Where did he finish? Okay, so let's see. Round 1, he eagled hole 7. Round 2, he eagled hole 7 both rounds. And then did he end up getting? Not quite. Still, hole 7 both rounds is such a crazy eagle. If you guys haven't seen that weird flex line that even he as a lefty has to throw, because theoretically the guys who are good at forehand should also be getting that. And I don't think any of the big forehand guys got it. Did Hamas get it? Hamas has one of the best forehands on tour too. Which kind of brings me to my shot of the week, that his forehand eagle on, I guess it's 7. Yeah. So his forehand eagle on 7 was crazy. Because it was like pin high right there just to the left. That was such a cool shot to watch. Where are we at? There we go. So he was 2 for 2 scrambling, going over Hamas's stats real quick. Obviously, some of these stats aren't always correct. Like there was a really popular image that went around a couple days ago where it was like somebody was tapping in their 20-footer. The stat said it was 20-footer, but literally there's a video of the person just like tapping it in. So anyways, but I would say that it's at least consistently wrong for everyone, so it's not necessarily like screwing anybody over or anything like that. He was round 1 was Hamas's worst day. No, round 2 was his worst day. That makes sense. It was really windy. Round 2. Let's see. He was bogey free day 1 and had 1 bogey the last day, and then day 2 he went on a 6-hole eagle streak. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hole eagle streak. But he was still basically clean throughout the fairway, even on the crazy windy day. He was 2 out of 3 scrambled. His circle 1 was insane. No circle 2 putts, but that makes sense, right? It was crazy windy. Round 1, all these stats are nuts. He only had to scramble once, it looks like. 75% C1X, not bad. The 1 out of 3 C2's not amazing, but that last day he just went off. He even scrambled both times 100%. 12 out of 14 C1X putting, and he was 50% C2 putting, and that C2 putting, I've talked about it before, is going to be like a huge stat coming out, I think, for the Pro Tour going forward. I've said that about 2 years ago, where like I think C2 might be the most important stat nowadays as far as like getting people their first wins. So for the record, in case you don't know, I have a screen here and a screen here, so that's why I'm looking like back and forth, and you'll see my face like change colors based on where it's at, where I'm at streaming. But check the live chat real quick, make sure everybody's good. All right, everybody's good, cool. Oh, I don't have my YouTube one up. There we go. All right, there's a huge delay on YouTube. I'm gonna have to change that. Anyways, not a big deal. Again, it's the pilot, so we're gonna have these weird things, but we're learning. But yeah, my notable stats for MPO, Nathan Queen getting that eagle both rounds is nuts. Did we have anybody super low that we maybe were surprised by on the leaderboard? Maybe didn't cash. Tristan Tanner, I think he had he finished like 7 points below his rating for the tournament. Jeremy, even though he won that New Zealand tournament, did not perform very well at this one. I think he shot a little bit low. He was like 18 points below his rating. But Waco's a tough one because there is some really like tough wooded lines, and if you're just a little off, you're way off at Waco, which doesn't really surprise me too much. He's still learning his bag, even though I've seen him throw that hex forehand, and it's so nuts. Do we have Luke Taylor? Looks like he was a little bit below his rating. Yeah, he's 1030 rated, and he finished 1,000 rated. So what was it? All right, last 2 days he just didn't do much. Round 1 he started great, fine. Actually, not great, fine. Round 2 looks like maybe the wind was just deflating for some people. I think that might have been what did it. Matty O, I think, was a bit below his rating. Yep, about 20 below. Rating's not everything, but it is an easy way for me to figure out who's performing like above and below maybe their potential, right? So Nobody else was crazy. Where did Goose finish? Because Goose is my next little talking point. Goose did not cash. Goose was 2 out of cash. Now, the reason he is my talking point, sorry, I did not mean to have my phone on my desk. I apologize. Amateur hour. So, I watched Goose and Ezra's practice rounds, and they both kind of made the joke like, oh, there's a lot of filler holes. Oh, is Waco a filler tournament, filler course? And I think it's just dated. Like I said earlier in the podcast, it suffers because it's stuck. You can't expand too much because there's the river, there's the road, and I don't think there's much room north or south to go either, east or west. I don't know the cardinal directions on that course. But yeah, Goose missed looks like Goose missed cash by 2. And I think I just don't think he was putting well at all, by the way. But in the way that his putting was less than stellar. 7 out of 11 C1X, 1 out of 7 C2. So he wasn't even getting to, I mean, if you had 7 C2 putts, he wasn't doing very well because not very many people had that many C2 putts. Yeah, he was scrambling a lot. Looks like he was just a little bit off, and it was kind of hitting everything. So, which is pretty normal. We need Waco as a palate cleanser. It's a fun tournament to watch, especially at the beginning of the season. I don't disagree. I just think that maybe the course itself is a little outdated. There's a lot of the same shots. There's a lot of like 250 to 315 foot like backhand turnovers. There's like, or they could be forehands. Some of the open holes are kind of just, I don't know how you fix them without making them overly cheesy. The problem is I have no problem with easy courses. I just need to make sure it's still challenging enough for the pros to not like, okay, first of all, I think par is a made up number. Par is whatever you want it to be, right? Like for us going out there, let's see, for the round, who had the hot round? It was that one kid. Oh shoot. I saw Disc Golf Fanatic talk about it. It's a guy, I don't know his name. But he shot the same as Macbeth. And is there a way for me to change on here? Who had the best round? Was it Jake? Was it 15 down? Yeah, okay. It was Jake's 15 down. Okay. 1080 rounded, which is crazy. So, like 15 down, which is nuts. And he was like one of the few people to do that. Like 12 down is, I think, totally commendable. And most people were shooting 10, 11 down, which is fine. Because it's not just, okay, whoever throws the farthest is going to win. And again, my problem is a lot of the holes at Waco are dated and repetitive. And I'm all for eagle looks. Par is a made up number. It's super arbitrary in disc golf. It always has been arbitrary because it's based on the field skill, more or less. Like they go through and they go to the course. They go to, they figure out the holes, and then they're like, all right, par on this hole should be XYZ because that's what the field average is closest to. So a lot of course designers will come in here. They'll look at their MPO, I guess, and they'll go, okay, this hole was averaged a 3.46. That's when you decide whether or not you want to make it a par 4 or a par 3, which there was no eagles on it, so it's hard to justify it being a par 3 unless you're Nate Heinold and you want to make a course really hard and play hard to par, right? Like if we just completely got rid of the notion of par and birdie and you're just like, okay, I need to get to this hole in as few strokes as possible, I think it would change the way mindsets worked a little bit. It would be harder to keep up with and it'd be a little funky, but I'm saying in the way that course design should work. Just my kind of goofy opinion. I've been following Hauk Designs for the last 2 years. We're on a first name basis. D and Hauk are great. They're the best course designers in the world, and they do a great job. And this is just where my opinion comes in and I've helped design and working on my own top to bottom course right now, but I'll get to that later. The big issue comes when the majority of the field is averaging the same shot. That's where scoring separation needs to come in. Now, there's a lot of dumb ways to throw in score separation, like luck. Luck is a terrible thing. I think if your course depends on wind to be hard, it's not a good course. I think Waco is kind of that now. DDO is a great example of that, where was it 2 years ago where they played it twice, and once it wasn't windy and it was just like entirely boring. But again, that just more proves my point, where I think that a course that needs wind to be challenging for the pros or for scoring separation is not a good or well-designed course. Not that Waco's probably a great MA1 or it's pretty solid FPO course, honestly. I just don't think it's challenging the top 100 pros right now. And I think that's what the DGPT should be doing as far as scoring separation. Sorry, just checking my chats real quick, making sure I wasn't missing anything. I don't have anybody. If anybody's on TikTok wants to go and chat in on my YouTube to make sure that it's working, I don't see anything happening, I would appreciate it. But if not, no biggie. I appreciate you here regardless. It's more entertaining to watch multiple people with a chance to win. So the difference there is that I think Kristin is I'll get to Kristin. We're going to go over the FPO stuff, I promise. But that's a great point. Somebody said it's more entertaining to watch multiple people with a chance to win than it is to watch Kristin win by 5. I don't disagree. I'll just say real quick. There's that fun debate in the NBA right now, like who's the number one shooter of all time, and it's not even close. It's Steph Curry. So right now, the fun conversation is, all right, who's second best? Because it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to catch up to Curry. Right now, that's where FPO is. Like, if Kristin's on, she's going to win. There's nobody that's going to challenge that if she's playing her best. So I think part of the FPO's problem is the skill needs to catch up. It's not the first time this has happened. This has happened in MPO 100 times, right? So Climo is a great example. Like, it took a lot of people a long time to catch up with Climo, and as far as like how good he was. And we're doing the same thing now. Like it happened, Paul Macbeth was untouchable for like 2 years until the field started catching up. So pretty normal, but that's just the way it goes. And I don't think you can really do anything course-wise to do that. Because I don't think Kristin necessarily, she's not the farthest thrower on tour at all. She's just the most consistent and most well-rounded. So that's a skill issue, unfortunately. Where in this, when we're talking about MPO, it's a lot more about the spread. Let's look at some maybe more interesting stats as far as how the MPO did. Let's see if anybody really knocked anybody else out of the park as far as C1X putting. Let's see. Andrew Marweed, of course, best putter on earth, and I'll say it year in and year out, C1X. Let's see. How was all? Sweet. I didn't even see that all button. All right. Andrew Marweed, best putter on earth. 98% C1X, 40% C2. Not bad, especially with how windy, but 98% C1X, especially with how windy that second day was. Like, Marweed is just insane right now. Burr can be just as good, but I think all in all, Marweed is just so far above everybody else. Consistently C1X. Evan Scott, Parker Welk, Matt Bell. Who was our best C2? Jake Mon, C2, and it's probably like his last round. I think he was just untouchable. Ezra Aderhold, 50% C2. Not bad, not bad. Granted, if you have a lot of C2s, maybe you're not playing too well, especially on a shorter course like Waco. Who had the longest average putt distance? That's a fun one. Trevin Crow. So because he made 6 of 6 C2 putts, that'll help your average a little bit, and he still was 85% C1X. Let's see if anybody else really stood out. So Albert Tom, 10% scrambling. That's going to hurt. That's hard to stay up. And that's maybe part of the reason why he was 76th. When you're a little off and then you can't scramble, it's rough. Kyle Klein, 100% C1X at 404. Marweed's also always been crazy good at scrambling because he gets up and down. That's just what he does. let's check out Simon's putting. Everybody's talking about Simon's putting was probably pretty good. I mean, it had to be good, right? He was second place. And again, like you said, when Simon's on, good luck. Was he number one at anything? C1 regulation? Okay, yeah. So Simon, 72%, 39 out of 54. C1 regulations, not bad. I think the wind really was just hurting people, but he won because it looked like he was parked 24% of the time, and the next closest was 20. But he did have, okay, let's see strokes gained on putting. Andrew Marweed had 10 strokes on the field. Gained putting, yeah. Shocker. And Simon strokes gained on the field. My favorite part is that Simon's very easy to find because he has that German flag. So he had 0.5 strokes gained on the field putting. So he wasn't like really blistering anybody, right? But that's what it is. Also, thanks for liking and sharing. I appreciate you guys. YouTube is working. Pierce, you're the man. I appreciate you. The problem is there's a huge delay on YouTube. I'll have to get that fixed. We'll get that taken care of. I think there's just that big delay, which bummer. We'll get that fixed. I can fix that next week. But I'll still get this uploaded post. Any other fun stats? Jake Mon had 7.9 strokes gained on the field. Gained C1X, Marweed, obviously. Anybody parking that stuff? Simon was second place because his park stat and his C1 regulation stat combined were up there. Who had best fairway? Gannonburr, best fairway percentage. Doesn't really surprise me. Yeah, Marweed is just a putting nightmare. I was looking at that C1X. All right, who had most tee to green? Simon Lizotte had 16 strokes on the field tee to green. Second place was Adam Hammis. Adam Hammis had 14 strokes on the field. So that's what did it. And then when you compare right here, Simon to Adam, it's 2 strokes gained putting. So that's what did it. That's what it was, which is pretty cool. Making sure my live stream's still working. Everything's good. We're good. Golden. So maybe the fun topic at hand, right? Checking my notes, make sure I'm not missing nothing. Talked about that. Okay. Let's do a real quick little overview on maybe the controversial stuff. So everybody was clearly upset by Adam Hammis's OB call. I get it, right? Let me change my stream up real quick to make sure that boop, and we're back, and we're back. Like I said, this is the fun part, and this is the part where I'll slowly be learning so that I can make it faster, so I can transition between scenes real quick. Everybody's talking about Adam Hammis's OB, and I'll get that pulled up. All right, cool. I can pull it up on Reddit. That's probably what I'm going to be doing going forward. Full screen, perfect. So, okay, this is Adam Hammis's OB stuff. This is that OB call in 18. Here's the thing, guys. This is a terrible camera angle. Germ and Yuli both said this is a terrible camera angle. We cannot pretend that we know from a still image or a camera or 2D space that we know better than the people on the field. That's just what it is. Especially this angle. This is so it's downhill from safe to OB. Like it's downhill that way. I'm sorry, is that showing up on you guys? No, okay, cool. It is downhill in the direction towards the disc, and the disc is tombstoned. That's the other part that you can't tell from here. The grass is long, right? Obviously, you can see clearly that the grass is long, but the disc is probably about this far above the line. It's hard to see from this angle, but on coverage you can kind of see it. Since the disc is like this far, and it's a downhill grade, you can tell that by the flag that we're not looking perfectly straight down. You're actually looking underneath the disc from this angle. Let me pull up real quick my goofy little... Oop, doop, 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 doop. Perfect. So, whoop. One second, let me pull this over. So here's a great example of why this is not exactly the best, in my opinion, why the camera angle makes such a big difference. Obviously, a ball and a disc are not the same thing, but the point still stands. Since the disc was this far above the line, this is how perspective changes so much. Like when you're looking, this was like, okay, we're looking under the disc. All right, it looks like it's out. But then once you look straight down, all of a sudden, it looks like it's in. Now, the huge issue, clearly, was that it's a painted line on long grass. It's just bad. Objectively, it's bad. And the second that like a painted piece of tall grass falls over, you have to argue that it's touching inbounds, right? And the OB rule states, this is verbatim, a disc must be completely and entirely OB in order to be ruled out of bounds. This is arguable, so you have to say it's inbounds. Painted lines suck. The best thing, like, okay, painted lines are okay on turf. That's it. That's because it's not tall grass waving around, right? Strings that are stapled down, that's the way to do it. But yeah, so that's the big, I guess, sorry for not having that full screen, but that's the idea, is that painted lines suck, especially on tall grass. Let's not pretend like we know better than the guys on the field. Now, anybody have anything to say about that one? Maybe? It's unfair having your opponents make calls. Yes, we're just, unfortunately, this is a whole different conversation. Should we have officials on every card? I mean, that would probably be ideal, right? The problem is getting that many people is tough. Like it's hard enough getting fully staffed for these events because mostly the locals run it. The DGPT just kind of steps in and says what they do and don't need. Officials on every card is rough. It's so hard. Officials on every hole is probably a little more plausible, right? Here's my like goofy solution. One, don't have painted lines on tall grass. Two. This, by the way, this is a great example as to why photo video evidence is hard to allow, right? Video evidence is allowed now on player misconduct, but it is not allowed for this kind of stuff because of this is a great example. Like the people on the field, they said this was in bounds, which is great. Unfortunately, this just doesn't look like it, but every player has to be rules certified. And I think there should be like a tick higher, maybe a slightly more difficult test to become, or maybe they just make the test in general more difficult. Every player for, I think, A's, maybe B tiers have to be rule certified. I don't remember that rule off the top of my head. I'm rule certified, but I also run leagues, and we use PDGA rules for those leagues. And we run sanction leagues, and I play B tiers, and I playing an A tier this year. So like you have to be rules certified. I think there should be maybe either the test harder or a slightly higher test to become like tournament director certified or rules official certified. And in order to be a spotter at these events, I think you should have to be rules official certified. Then the holes where we have spotters, those people at least could have a valid vote, if possible, towards things like this. That way it's not, okay, well, you have one person that's going to say they're inbounds because that's the person who threw it, and you have three people who are arguing it. So if you get everybody rule certified, then maybe you can make the point that, okay, there's now a official on every hole because they are now certified. That's just like maybe my spitball take on that one. Also, I think, by the way, yes, I think players are way too soft on calling things because they're friends. They tour all year. They don't want to like ruin the vibes of the card. I understand. They just, in my opinion, they're a little soft. But in this case, we as players cannot pretend that we know better than the people, or we as spectators should not pretend we know better than the people who are on the field. So that's my take on the whole debacle with the OB line. And that kind of, feeds into Ezra Robinson hit a spectator on, I think it was hole 17 on his approach shot. And the spectator kind of like kept it from going out of bounds. That's going to happen. It happens every year. As long as the spectator is not, here's my opinion. Why am I spacing it? I just said it. Spotter, that's why I kept trying to say it. The spotter just should not move once the disc is being thrown, because spotters are basically treated as part of the course, just like cameramen. They're treated as part of the course. Should maybe they have designated like rules? Maybe there should be a different test to be a spotter, part of that test I was talking about. And there's like, hey, here's places you should and shouldn't stand, just based on like guidelines, because you can't have that for every hole at every course. That'd be unfeasible. Sorry, checking the chat real quick. Yeah. So the big part of it becomes they're part of the course. The cameramen, the spotters, they're part of the course. He hit part of the course. That's what it is. They're treated like trees, treated like bushes. They're treated like signs. That's what spotters and cameramen are. That's just the way it is. As long as they don't try to run and get out of the way and then just get more in the way, like that's when it becomes a problem. Like in my opinion, once that disc is released, don't move unless you're fearing for your life. So I get it. That's a weird one. But yeah, let's check my notes real quick, see where we're at. It's interesting that Goose didn't finish because he was kind of pooping on the course, right? He finished 2 below the line. Say hello to my desktop. Goose finished 2 below the line. Let me get the scores back up. I don't know why I closed that. Because he was saying it's kind of a filler course. And again, I think it's just the course does suffer a little bit. But again, I don't mind the easier courses. Idlewild is kind of one of those courses where people can just torch, but it's still a great course to watch. Some of the stuff might be a little more fluky at Idlewild because it is a lot heavier wooded, but I think it's just as good. I actually prefer watching Idlewild. So that was weird. I apologize for that little hiccup there. Let me go back to here. Let's go over the ladies' stats. Obviously, I'm saying my girl Kristin because she was my first pick in my 14-person disc golf fantasy league. So my girl Kristin just came out and ran away with it. 7 strokes above everybody. Let's look at the stats. I think my favorite throw by the ladies over the weekend. Maria Olivia. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. I think she hit the basket twice on 18 for their approach shot. For the ladies, 18's a par 4. It's so sick. Like hitting that twice is so cool. Jessica Weiss had a really sick scramble on the back 9 too. I can't remember what that was off the top of my head, but cool. So did my light die? No, we're good. Sorry, again, pilot episode, so I'm kind of maybe a little sporadic on figuring out what's working and what's not. Excuse me. Let me check these stats out real quick. Thanks for liking and sharing. I appreciate you guys. So actually, screw it. Thanks, ad blocker. Sorry, That was just a random, like, ad blocker decided to update. That was fun. Just in the middle of me. Usually it's like when I open my browser. That was fun. Okay. Happens. Now, let's check this out. Cash line was top 25 for the ladies. All right. Anybody didn't cash that maybe we're a little surprised on? Taylor didn't play well. Looks like she was just a little bit off. Yeah, her putting wasn't great. She's just a little bit off. Sorry, I'm like half invested in Taylor, because she's been fun to pay attention to, and I've been following her socials for a while. She crushes. Maria Olivia, who had, she took a 10 on hole 12. That'll do it. Yeah, it looks like she just wasn't getting on the fairway much at all. And then putting was just out. So let's see, how much play below her rating? Yeah, she was like 50 points below her rating. So Mo wasn't playing great. Holly Finley, she was like 20 below her rating. I know Kona had a bad year, but I don't know. Her rating's kind of leveled out to where she's been playing. That's not too bad. So she was just a little bit below her rating. Kat was blowing up, but she just came back from having a kid. I can't really be, everybody's still getting back in the swing of things. She didn't play above her. Oh, she only played above her rating once. Nope, she never played above her rating. Okay. Paige Shue. I don't remember what Paige was rated. Okay, so just under her rating. Cool. Sarah Hokum played. All right. I know she had kind of a weird year. It was Paige. Paige played exactly her rating. Okay, cool. Paige Pierce. Kat Murch was about 5 over her rating. Hannah Wynn was 28 over her rating. So I am in a group chat with Hannah Wynn in Dark Ace Disc Golf. I'm on Team Dark Ace, so I'm kind of vested on Nathan Queen and Hannah Wynn because they're the two big pros on the team. Hannah Wynn has put in a crazy amount of work in the off season, and she's going to be fun to watch this year. Obviously, like last year was her first year with Discraft, but she was still getting better last year, and the year before she got better, and this proves like she's been getting better. And just hearing her talk about what her off season's been like, it's been super interesting. Make sure I'm not missing the live chats over here. Cool. We're good. But yeah, we'll look at stats here in a second. Maddie Walker played 40 above her rating. Solid. I think Owen said she was talking about an injury. I didn't hear much about it other than people saying, oh, it stinks that Owen is dealing with an injury. I don't know what that means because I didn't see where she was talking about it. So if anybody in the chat knows anything about Owen's injury stuff, let me know. That'd be cool. And I can verify and Google stuff right here on the fly. Ella Hansen had a pretty one. So her name is Bagel Powered on Twitter, and I never paid attention that her picture on here is her with bagels. She said today she won't be throwing forehands this week. Ooh, if Owen's not throwing forehands, that's brutal. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. It's dry out. Yeah, that stinks. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. I think it was the DGPG press conference. Okay. I missed the press conference. I apologize. So maybe that was part of it. I'll be checking those out more going forward. So let's see, was Missy above her rating? Yep, Missy was like 5 above her rating. She's like right at where she should be. This is a great idea. Like, the reason I'm doing this is because, is the rating system perfect? Absolutely not. But it's still a good way to kind of see how they're playing against the field, right? And it's a okay metric. It's the best we've got at figuring out how they play against the field. And so this is where, like, okay, Missy played right above her rating and got 4th place, which means 3 people in the field probably played better obviously, but or 2 people in this case played above their rating, because I think Missy's the second highest rated in FPO. I'd have to check. Anyways, Kristin just came out and said, "Hey guys, I'm back. I had a good off season and I was working." I think her Nike stuff is paying off. She's working out like crazy. Just, I mean, you'll see the stats here in a second. I'll switch over to it. But she won by 7. And she only played 16 points above her rating. So the rest of the field was playing pretty average, and she just played a little better than normal. Cool. Cool. Let's look at the stats. Let's pull up like stats. Actually, let's look at the course stats first. I just want to see how the course played. See, this is a pretty good FPO course, and this is what I mean. Let me pull up the men's stuff. Where the men are having, in my opinion, if you have a hole that's averaging 60% or above on a stat, that hole needs maybe a little more scoring separation. Let me go. Oh, I can't do. That stinks. I wish I could do the course stats for all 3 rounds. But like, it was much more leveled when it was windy, and I said if a course has to be windy in order to play well. All right, it's not a very well designed course in compared to the top 1%. Waco's obviously not a bad course. I'm just comparing it to the best courses. That's all. Sorry, Hugh, your name made me laugh. So these are MPO stats. And with the MPO stats, I apologize, those of you on TT. I know it's small, but it's the best I got right now. I'll be reading through it. So these are the course stats. For MPO, there was what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 holes where more than 60% of the field had the same score. That's not great. That's my opinion. That's for a DGPT level course, that's not amazing. That's my opinion, at least on how it plays. But for FPO, obviously the pars are a little different. Things play a little different. And the field is a bit more spread out too. Like you have Kristin Tatar all the way. I didn't pay attention to who the lowest rated in FPO, but the range is much more. That noise was awful. I apologize. Sorry, Alex, you got me. Okay, you got me. Cool. The FPO. I think hole 2 might be a little easy. 70% of the field got a birdie. That's crazy. But ooh, that's nice. I didn't notice that there's like fairway scramble C1X putting on each hole. I don't remember that being a thing. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 6 holes where the field had the same score. That's my part. Thanks, Alex. So that's why Waco, I think, is maybe a little better for the FPO division than it is the MPO division. It'll be interesting paying attention to that going forward more. So, whoops, go back to FPO stats. Let's check out specifically what people were doing all weekend and who is really running away with it. Okay, let's check out strokes gained putting. Silva Saarinen. Okay. Silva Saarinen had 9 strokes on the field gained putting. Second place was Jessica Weiss. Let's see why Silva maybe didn't do the best. Tee to green was 2.7. Why was Silva 13th? Bogey percentage. 11 bogeys, that'll do it. She just parred a lot. Okay. Didn't quite turn it over on the scrambles. That's what it is. It is what it is. And See, strokes gained C2, Rebecca Cox, who was 8th place. See, this is the interesting part. The person who won by 7 strokes was not strokes gained putting, was not strokes gained C2. I mean, she was, what? Like 10th strokes gained putting, and then like 12th, 13th strokes gained C2. And let's see, what's tee to green? She was 2nd in tee to green. Henna Blumers, of course. Henna and Evelina. I expect to see those two in top 5 tee to green constantly. They're some of the best throwers in the game. So thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate you. So the 28 strokes tee to gain, tee to green's pretty crazy. That's 4 strokes above anybody else. So that's why Henna got 3rd. But she had 0 C2 putts. That's an easy way to convert 1 or 2 strokes each round, is making those C2s. Tee to green is far and away more telling than putting. I don't disagree, but if like a putting stat is well and far above, it happens. Or like, for me, I just started because it was right to left. I was just starting with putting. But if someone's putting really well, they're usually at least in contention. But if you're putting well, it doesn't mean you're necessarily getting to the green very well. So Kristin was only, 24 strokes gained on the field, tee to green. That's going to do it. Like, she just wasn't scrambling. She never double bogeyed. Kristin's birdie percentage was 50%. Shocker. I think she just never missed the fairway. She was 90% fairway. Like, that's just going to do it when you're... Also, putting isn't bad. She's not necessarily losing a ton of strokes on the field putting. Her C2 regulation was 83%, right there with Henna. Her C1 regulation was 63%. So, but yeah, 90% fairway hits, 0% double bogey, which not a lot of people did. Only 2 people, her and Holland were the only people who went 0 double bogeys. And also, she only had 4 bogeys. Rebecca, Holland, Henna were all right there too. So let's check my stats. Check my stats. Cool. But I mean, yeah, that's why Kristin won. Makes a lot of sense. And there's events where her C2 is nuts, and she was that's like 13th or 15th or something C2 putting. So if her C2 starts to work, she's gonna run away with it even more. So that's crazy. But hey, so back to kind of talking about Kristin some more. Kristin hit the 2nd all-time earner behind Paige Pierce, and she did it in less events. Obviously, they're making more money these last 3 or 4 years than they ever were before. But it's just an interesting stat to see that Kristin has hit that accolade of 2nd highest earner of all time. It's kind of the case. But cool. I think that's gonna about do it. I wasn't even paying attention to how long I was talking because kind of got funky because I started out the podcast a little weird. But I think that's going to do it for this first podcast. If you are watching on YT or TT, I have to say that because algorithms don't like me talking about other social medias. If you are watching on either of them, I appreciate you very much. I'm going to have up tomorrow. When I get this uploaded, I still have to create the channel, but I'm giving away, this is a Andrew Presnell Soft Zone. Now this is from himself. I bought this from Andrew as He was doing like this little fundraiser for his event. I am giving this away. It will be on the YT page. So just kind of pay attention to my other socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever, Blue Sky. And I will be giving this away to someone in the comments of the post-produced. But tell me you were on the live stream, and I can verify it pretty easily. Tell me you're on the live stream and you get an extra in on the giveaway. So, yeah, that's the first episode of Disc Week News. I appreciate you guys hanging out a ton. This was interesting to like kind of run through on the pilot. It was obviously very clearly it was a learning experience, and I appreciate everybody's patience on all this stuff. My goal is to improve something every week, right? Improve one thing every week about the podcast, whether that's graphics or maybe I just smooth things out, maybe pre-plan a little better, which I think is going to be easy to do. And yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys. The gift away again will be on the post-produce for YouTube. It will have its own YouTube page tomorrow, Disc Week News. I'm going to continue to do the streams on my personal though, just kind of getting started, because I just have more followers there and I still have to get the actual pages for Disc Week News started up. But thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you guys a ton. Have a good night.